we're going to learn about a straightforward way to make your drawing feel three-dimensional using light and shade. Specifically, we're going to learn from Antoine Watteau and the three chalk or Trois Crayons. There's going to be some bad pronunciation in this video, sorry. Approach. And we'll see why it's quite a simple approach to start using, and if you're a beginner, it can teach you a lot. But this video is also a story about breaking out of a slump, you know, when every drawing you try seems to be failing. Hi, my name's Kenzo, and this is Love Life Drawing. So this video was born from a conversation between me and my mum Mayko, where she explained she was struggling to draw.
Lately, I've been feeling a kind of slump. I felt my drawing doesn't go anywhere, and I felt I couldn't draw. When things like that happen, I always go back to my starting point. And one thing I do is go back to all the master I admire. And Watteau is one of them. I really love his drawing and painting. And characteristic of his drawing is he used his master of Trois Crayons, three color chalk drawing.
So she decided to do some studies of Watteau's Trois Crayons drawings, and his drawings are beautiful. And this technique is quite fun and it simplifies the process. So it was a good candidate for helping her to break out of the slump. So what is this technique? It's where you draw using a neutral colored paper and then a sanguine chalk or pencil, black or maybe a dark brown, and white. And in many ways, it's an easier approach than just trying to apply pencil or charcoal to white paper. One of the basic challenges in life drawing is that the figure is 3D and the drawing surface is 2D. So we've got to create that illusion of 3D in the drawing. And there's various ways to do that, and one way is to explain where the light is falling and where it's not falling, the light and the dark. And a tricky part about that is that there's a lot of different levels of light and dark in the figure. So then you can simplify those into fewer levels of light and dark, and we've talked about that in other videos. And you could simplify into just the lightest areas, the darkest areas, and then maybe a few midtones in the middle. And so far so good, but then how do you achieve those simple levels of light and dark on the paper? So the most common approach is that you start with white paper, which is all really light, and then you use your pencil or charcoal or whatever to move areas towards darkness. So the light areas are where you let the paper show through, and then for the mid-tone areas you need to use a softer application of the material, maybe use some smudging or hatching, and then for the dark areas you can use a more intense application of the charcoal or whatever. But it's hard to apply those variations. You need skill to do that. If you're already struggling to get proportions right and structures, it's easy to start pressing too hard and suddenly everything is really dark and it looks kind of messy. And I drew like that for ages. Everything went too dark too quickly. It's easier if you can limit the range that you're drawing in somehow. Work in smaller ranges. So what I mean is, firstly, you could start off with a neutral colored paper. That way you're starting a bit closer to the middle, not really light and not really dark. Now you just need to move some areas towards light, where you really need it to be light, and you can just use some white for that. And then other areas towards dark with the sanguine and the black. So you've broken things up from the beginning. It's already easier to deal with. Now this range here is still fairly big, but fortunately the sanguine and the black split it up. The sanguine doesn't go super dark, so when you're using that, you can only really work in this smaller range. And then the black only has to be responsible for the bit down here, the darkest bits. And so that means you can press too hard accidentally in these areas. And it's okay because the black, you're pressing hard, but it's only really needed for the dark areas. And the sanguine, even if you do press hard, it's not going to go too dark. So now, instead of starting with total light and then skillfully varying the intensity of the charcoal or whatever from there to create the drawing, we've split the work into kind of 4 simple levels. And the materials are naturally suited to each of those levels, so you can go wrong with them and still more or less stay in about the right place. Just before we continue, I just wanted to let you guys know that we have a free guide, a little booklet called Life Drawing Success. It's all about avoiding that one mistake. It's the mistake that led to all my other mistakes with figure drawing. So I think you'll like it. Check it out at lovelifedrawing.com/lifedrawingsuccess. So if we didn't have the black and just the sanguine, it wouldn't be dark enough. We wouldn't get that depth. And also that sanguine is a warm color, so it comes forward towards your eye. The black goes back, it recedes, so having both helps give more depth. Sanguine also brings life to the figure. Its kind of reddish color gives a sense of blood pumping in this living creature. And it can draw some attention too. Mayko realized after starting to use sanguine for some of the drapery that Watteau actually just used black and white for the cloth here and kept the sanguine for the figure only because it has that life to it. When you start with just white paper, it's tricky to highlight just the lightest bits because everything is light. You need to cover a lot of the paper with a subtle mid-tone like Frank has done here, so that the bits of white that do shine through really stand out. But that's a tricky thing. If you start with that neutral mid-tone paper and then you just need to apply a bit of white for the bits you want to highlight, it's a little bit easier to do. If you're using watercolors or a big box of pastels, you've got the opposite problem to when you're just using pencil or charcoal. Now you've got so many options, it can be overwhelming. So limiting things down to just these few levels that we're using in this 3-chalk Trois Crayons method is a good way, is a kind of a good balance in the middle. So Mayko sent me some detailed notes about the materials she used and the options you have if you want to try this approach yourself, and I've added them to the description below. So did this help her to break out of her drawing slump, this process?
I can't say right now if I got out from slump, but I certainly regained my enthusiasm for drawing with 3 crayons, sanguine, white, black. I feel I can enjoy drawing, and I can be more instinctive, and it is fun, and I think that's very important to have a fun in drawing.
If you haven't seen some of our other videos, why not check them out? I've got some suggestions on the screen here. And if you haven't subscribed, then definitely hit the subscribe button because we have a lot of great stuff coming out over the next few months. Thank you guys so much for watching.